You've probably reached into a bag of potato chips 1,000 times without thinking twice. The crunch, the grease on your fingers, the way one is never actually enough. But the chip in your hand was never supposed to exist. It was born from a moment of pure rage, and someone fully expected you to hate it. It's 1853. Moon's Lake House sits on the edge of Saratoga Lake in upstate New York, the kind of lakeside resort where wealthy families from New York City came to escape the summer heat and be seen doing it. The cook in that kitchen is George Crumb, a man with a reputation for being able to cook anything and a notably short fuse for complaints. One afternoon, a diner sends his fried potatoes back, too thick, too soft. Not what he wanted. Crumb sends out a second batch. They come back again, same complaint. That's when Crumb stops trying to please anyone. He takes a potato and slices it as thin as physically possible, paper thin, almost translucent, drops the slices into hot oil, fries them until they're rigid and brittle, hits them with a heavy hand of salt, and sends the plate back out. The whole point was that they'd be impossible to eat with a fork. That was the joke. That was the punishment. The customer loved them. Word spread through the dining room. Other tables started asking for the same thing. What began as an act of pure kitchen spite became the most requested dish at Moon's Lake House, and eventually those thin fried slices got their own name, Saratoga chips. Now, here's where it gets genuinely complicated. Historians have pointed out that the Vanderbilt detail may be embellishment, and some accounts credit Crumb's sister Catherine, who also worked that kitchen, with a version of the discovery. At least 5 different people have been credited as the chip's true creator, but that contested history doesn't weaken the story. It actually makes it richer. Something happened in that kitchen in 1853, something born from frustration, not from craft. A hit dish at one fancy lakeside restaurant is a very long way from a bag sitting in every gas station on Earth. So how on earth did that leap actually happen? George Crumb made those chips specifically to be uneatable, so would you have sent that plate back a third time or just taken the hint? Drop your answer in the comments below. Either way, getting that dish out of one dining room and into the entire world is where things get really interesting. Getting from that Saratoga dining room to the world required solving a problem nobody had thought about yet. How do you keep a chip crisp once it leaves the kitchen? For decades after Crumb's moment of spite, chips stayed exactly where they were born, in restaurants. Before wax paper bags existed, potato chips were packaged in barrels or tins. Picture what that actually means. Chips piled on top of each other, moisture creeping in, the ones at the bottom going soft and stale before anyone could get to them. The crunch, the whole point, was gone within hours. You couldn't ship them. You couldn't stock them on a shelf. The chip was essentially a kitchen trick, not a product. A moment of culinary rage locked inside 4 walls. That's what makes the next piece of this story so remarkable. In the 1920s, someone in Monterey Park, California, recognized that the chip's real enemy wasn't a picky diner, it was air. The solution was almost absurdly low-tech, sealed wax paper bags. Workers took home sheets of wax paper to iron into the form of bags, which were filled with chips at the factory the next day. That's it. That was the whole operation. A household iron, sheets of wax paper folded into pouches. No sophisticated machinery, no lab. Just someone who recognized a problem and solved it with what was already at hand. That innovation kept chips fresh and crisp longer and allowed potato chips to become a mass-market product. Suddenly, a chip could travel. It could sit on a store shelf. It could be sold somewhere other than the restaurant where someone happened to be frying that day. So the next time you reach into a bag and hear that crunch, that specific, sharp, satisfying crack, you're holding the end result of 2 completely accidental inventions. One born from a cook losing his patience with a difficult customer. One born from someone with a household iron and a problem to solve. The chip was never designed. It was provoked into existence, and then kept alive by people who figured out how to preserve the accident. That crunch you never think twice about. It almost didn't make it out of the kitchen at all. Subscribe for more stories about everyday things that exist for surprisingly strange reasons. There's plenty more where that came from.